Say that again louder. Who here thinks the woman in 8A doesn't belong in business class? Grant Harlan stands in the aisle of first class, one hand gripping the overhead bin, the other gesturing toward the rear section where business class begins. His voice carries sharp entitled, designed to be heard. A few passengers glance up from their phones. Some look away, others smirk. In seat 8A, Sapphire Hayes opens her eyes slowly. She doesn't turn her head. Through the gap between the headrests, she can see Grant's polished loafers, his pressed slacks, the glint of a Rolex catching the cabin lights. The seatbelt sign chimes once, twice. A drink cart in the forward galley shifts. A bottle of red wine rolls off the tray, hits the floor with a dull crack. The flight attendant bends to grab it, muttering under her breath. Grant smiles. 18 minutes from now, nobody will be laughing. Sapphire is wearing a faded gray hoodie with a frayed drawstring old jeans that have seen too many washes and white sneakers scuffed at the toes. Her hair is braided tight against her scalp, pulled back into a short, no-nonsense tail. No jewelry, no makeup. Her only luggage is a canvas duffel bag, wedged under the seat in front of her military green, the kind issued decades ago, with a name tape long since peeled off. She looks tired. She looks ordinary. Across the aisle in 3C, Thatcher Whitmore leans into the aisle and snaps a photo with his phone. He angles it so Sapphire is framed against the window, her hoodie bunched around her shoulders. He taps out a caption, "When affirmative action meets business class." He doesn't post it yet, just saves it to his drafts, grinning. Grant Harlan presses the call button above his seat in 2A. It dings twice before Sky Lambert, the lead flight attendant, appears from the galley. She's young professional, her smile carefully neutral. "Yes, Mr. Harlan." "I need you to verify something." Grant gestures vaguely toward the rear. "I paid $15,000 for this seat. I want confirmation that everyone in business class actually belongs there." Sky hesitates. "Sir, I can assure you all passengers have valid boarding passes." "Then check hers." He nods toward 8A without looking. "That one." Sky glances back. Sapphire hasn't moved. Her eyes are closed again, head resting against the window. Sky walks down the aisle, stops beside row 8. She bends slightly, her voice polite. "Excuse me, ma'am. May I see your boarding pass?" Sapphire opens her eyes. She reaches into the front pocket of her hoodie, pulls out a crumpled paper pass, and hands it over without a word. Sky scans it, nods, hands it back. "Thank you. Everything's in order." She returns to Grant. "Her ticket is valid, Mr. Harlan." Grant shakes his head slowly as if disappointed. "Unbelievable." Sky retreats to the galley. Sapphire folds the boarding pass and tucks it away. Her right hand rests on the armrest, steady at first glance. But if you watch closely, there's a faint tremor in her fingers. She flexes them once, then grips the armrest tighter. The tremor stops. She doesn't look around the cabin. She doesn't need to. Her eyes have already swept the emergency exits, row, 8 row, 10 row 12. She counted the steps. 14 paces to the nearest overwing exit, 11 to the forward door. She knows the distance by heart, the way some people know their own phone number. In seat 6A, Flynn Baxter, a man in his 50s with silver hair and a cashmere sweater, leans toward his seatmate and whispers just loud enough to be overheard. She doesn't look the part, does she? His seatmate, a woman in pearls, nods silently. In 4D, Colton Reed scrolls through his phone, texting his assistant. He glances up once, catches sight of Sapphire through the gap in the seats, and shakes his head. He types, "Flying cattle class disguised as business." What's next? Sapphire's eyes remain closed. Her breathing is slow measured. In through the nose, 4 counts. Out through the mouth, 4 counts. It's a rhythm ingrained in her, something she learned a long time ago in a place where staying calm meant staying alive. Her duffel bag shifts slightly as the plane taxis. Inside, barely visible through the half-open zipper, is the corner of something metallic, dull, worn, engraved with letters too small to read from a distance. Nobody notices. The Boeing 737 begins to taxi toward the runway. Outside the windows, Cleveland Hopkins International Airport slides past gray tarmac. Yellow taxiway lights the distant glow of the terminal. The engines hum, steadily building power. Captain Bryson Hale's voice crackles over the intercom. He sounds tired, practiced. "Good afternoon, folks. This is Captain Hale. We're number 3 for departure, so we should be airborne in about 5 minutes. Weather's building over Lake Erie. Looks like we'll have some moderate turbulence on the climb. Flight attendants, please take your seats." Sky and the other attendants move quickly, securing the galley carts, checking seatbelts in the forward rows. One attendant buckles into the jump seat near the cockpit door. In 2A, Grant Harlan pulls out his phone and dials. The call doesn't go through airplane mode kicks in, but he keeps the phone to his ear anyway, shaking his head in irritation. "I have a conference call in Cleveland," he mutters to the passenger beside him. "We can't be late." In the cockpit, Captain Bryson Hale glances at his co-pilot, Declan Shaw. Declan is 26, fresh-faced, competent, but inexperienced. He's staring at the weather radar display between the two control columns. The screen is a patchwork of green, yellow, and red blotches, storm cells scattered across their flight path. One cell near the center of the screen is a deep, angry red. "Captain, that cell at 290 is rotating," Declan says quietly. "Looks like embedded convection." Bryson leans forward, squints at the screen. "We'll go around it. Request a deviation once we're airborne." Declan nods, but his jaw is tight. In 8A, Sapphire's eyes are open now. She's staring at the seat back in front of her, but her focus is somewhere else. Her lips move barely audible. Cell embedded. Rotation at 290. Nobody hears her. In 3C, Thatcher Whitmore opens his camera app again. He switches to video mode, pans across the cabin, lingering on Sapphire for a few seconds. He whispers into the mic, his tone mocking. "Day 1 of corporate travel. Already seeing some interesting diversity hires in business class. Let's see how this plays out." He stops recording grins and saves the clip. In 14C, Hector Pruitt, a 62-year-old man with a weathered face and a navy ball cap, watches Sapphire through the gap in the seats. He doesn't know her, but something about the way she sits perfectly still, shoulders squared, hands resting flat, reminds him of something. Someone. The plane reaches the runway. The engines spool up a deep roar that shakes the fuselage. The brakes release. The nose lifts. The wheels leave the ground. Grant Harlan checks his watch. Thatcher Whitmore cues up his next post. Flynn Baxter opens a leather portfolio and pretends to read. Sapphire closes her eyes again. Her right hand rests on the armrest. The tremor is back, faint but visible. She doesn't try to hide it this time. Outside, the sky is darkening. 3 minutes into the climb, the first jolt hits. The plane lurches sideways, not violent, but sudden enough to make passengers gasp. Overhead, bins rattle. A woman in row 11 grips her husband's arm. The seatbelt sign is already on, but a few people instinctively reach up to check their straps anyway. The intercom crackles. Captain Bryson's voice calm but clipped. "Flight attendants remain seated. We're encountering some light chop." In 8A, Sapphire's eyes snap open. Her hands move before her brain catches up. Left hand reaches across her lap. Right hand pulls the seatbelt tight. But she doesn't just pull it snug. She threads the loose end back through the buckle loops at once and tucks it under her thigh. It's a 5-point harness motion, the kind fighter pilots use. Except this is a lap belt. She catches herself, stops, glances around to see if anyone noticed. Nobody did, except Hector Pruitt in 14C. His eyes narrow. He leans forward, slightly watching. Sapphire tilts her head back and looks up at the overhead panel. Her gaze moves in a deliberate pattern oxygen mask compartment, reading light air vent call button. She doesn't touch anything. She's just Checking. The way someone checks a parachute before a jump. The way someone scans an instrument panel before takeoff. Another jolt. Harder this time. The plane drops 5 feet, then catches itself. A tray table in row 9 pops open. A pen rolls off and hits the floor. Sapphire closes her eyes. Her lips move again, counting under her breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. She opens her eyes, waits. 4 seconds later, another jolt. 4-second cycle. She murmurs, "Wind shear building." In 4D, Colton Reed hears her. He leans into the aisle, grinning. "Hey, sweetheart, you counting turbulence like it's bingo night." A few passengers chuckle. Sapphire doesn't respond. She closes her eyes again, her hands flat on the armrests, fingers spread wide. In the cockpit, Declan Shaw toggles the radar display to a closer range. The red cell is growing. He keys the radio. "Cleveland Center, this is Skylink 4112, requesting deviation left of course weather." A pause. Then, "Skylink 4112, turn left. Heading 270, maintain 17,000. Left 270, 17,000, Skylink 412. Declan adjusts the heading bug. The plane banks gently to the left. Bryson watches the radar, his jaw working. "That cell's not on the forecast," Bryson mutters. "It just popped up." Declan doesn't reply. He's gripping the yoke tighter than he needs to. In 8A, Sapphire feels the bank. Her body shifts slightly with the turn, but her head doesn't move. She's listening. Not to the passengers, not to the engines, to the airframe. The way the metal hums, the way the wings flex, the way the wind resistance changes pitch when the angle of attack shifts. She's reading the plane like a book. Another jolt. This one rattles teeth. A child in row 15 starts crying. Skye unbuckles from her jump seat and moves down the aisle, crouching beside the family, murmuring reassurances. Grant Harlan presses his call button. Skye glances up, sees the light, and walks forward. "Yes, Mr. Harlan." "Is this normal?" he demands. "I've flown first class for 20 years. This doesn't feel normal. It's just turbulence, sir. We'll be through it soon." Grant doesn't look convinced. He glances toward the back of the cabin, toward 8A. Sapphire's eyes are closed. Her hands are steady now. No tremor. Thatcher Whitmore raises his phone again, filming the shaking cabin. He pans to Sapphire, zooms in slightly. "Lady in 8A thinks she's meditating through this," he mutters into the mic. Spoiler alert, that's not going to help. Hector Pruitt watches Sapphire from 14C. He watches the way she breathes, the way her fingers tap the armrest in a rhythm. 4 beats, pause, 4 beats. He's seen that rhythm before. Fighter pilots use it to stay calm during high G maneuvers. It keeps the blood flowing, keeps the brain sharp. He leans back in his seat, frowning. Outside, the storm is waiting. Captain Bryson's voice cuts through the cabin noise again this time, with an edge of frustration. "Folks, we're going to be deviating around some weather. It's going to add about 12 minutes to our flight time. We appreciate your patience." In 2A, Grant Harlan unbuckles his seatbelt before the announcement finishes. He stands gripping the seat back in front of him as the plane rocks gently. Skye Lambert appears from the galley immediately, one hand raised. "Sir, the seatbelt sign is on. You need to sit down. I need to know if this delay is going to affect my connection." Grant's voice is loud enough that half the cabin turns to look. "I have a meeting in Cleveland at 4. This is unacceptable. Sir, I can't give you that information. Please return to your seat." Grant doesn't move. He steps into the aisle, walks forward toward the cockpit door. Skye follows her tone, shifting from polite to firm. "Mr. Harlan, you cannot approach the cockpit. FAA regulations. Do you know who I am?" Grant turns his face inches from hers. "I manage a 9-figure fund. I don't wait for weather." The plane jolts hard to the left. Grant stumbles, catches himself on the galley counter. A coffee pot tips over, spilling across the metal surface. Skye grabs his arm to steady him. "Please, sit down." Grant exhales sharply, shakes her off, and walks back to his seat. But he doesn't sit. He stands in the aisle, arms crossed, glaring toward the cockpit door. In 8A, Sapphire watches the whole exchange without moving her head. Her eyes track Grant, then shift to Sky, then to the cockpit door. She's calculating, measuring. Not the man, he's irrelevant. She's measuring the distance, the angle, the time it would take to reach the door if something went wrong. Another jolt. Harder. The plane drops 10 feet. Overhead bins pop open. A carry-on bag tumbles out, hits the floor with a thud. A woman in row 13 screams. In 10B, an elderly woman with silver hair fumbles with the oxygen mask compartment above her seat. Her hands are shaking. She can't get it open. She pulls harder, her breathing quick and shallow. Sapphire unbuckles. She moves down the aisle in 3 smooth steps, crouches beside the woman, and gently pulls her hands away from the panel. "Not yet," Sapphire says quietly. "Masks deploy automatically if cabin pressure drops. Right now we're fine." The woman stares at her wide-eyed. "But what if... If you need it, it'll come down on its own. You won't have to pull anything." Sapphire's voice is calm, almost flat. No emotion, just fact. "When it does, pull it towards you to start the flow. Put it over your nose and mouth. Breathe normally." The woman nods slowly. You've done this before." Sapphire doesn't answer. She returns to 8A and buckles in. The whole interaction took less than 20 seconds. In 10C, Dr. Verity Kane, a woman in her late 40s with sharp eyes and graying hair, pulled into a bun, leans across the aisle. "You've done that before," she says. "It's not a question." Sapphire glances at her. A single nod. Then she closes her eyes again. Dr. Verity studies her for a moment longer, then sits back. She's a cardiac surgeon. She's spent 3 decades reading people under pressure. And whoever this woman is, she's not what she appears to be. In 3C, Thatcher Whitmore is filming again. He zooms in on Sapphire, whispers into his phone. "Mystery lady just played flight attendant. Bet she's done this on YouTube tutorials." Grant Harlan is back in his seat now, but his face is red. He pulls out his phone, taps furiously. Realizes he has no signal and slams it onto the armrest. The turbulence doesn't stop. If anything, it's getting worse. The intercom crackles, but this time, it's not Captain Bryson's voice. It's Declan Shaw, and he sounds terrified. Ladies and gentlemen, this is First Officer Shaw. We have a medical emergency in the cockpit. If there is a doctor on board, please identify yourself immediately." A beat of silence. Then, "We also need anyone with aviation experience, military or commercial. Please ring your call button now." The cabin erupts. Passengers turn in their seats, murmuring, some reaching for their phones. A man in row 7 stands up, looking around wildly. A child starts crying. Dr. Verity Kane is already moving. She unbuckles, grabs her medical bag from the overhead bin, and strides toward the cockpit. Sky meets her at the door, nods and unlocks it. In 8A, Sapphire's eyes open. She doesn't move yet. She's listening, reading the situation. Grant Harlan stands again. What the hell is going on? Thatcher Whitmore is filming. This is insane. We're all gonna die. Sapphire unbuckles. She stands. She walks toward the front of the cabin, her movements smooth, deliberate. Not rushed, not hesitant. Grant sees her coming. He steps into the aisle, blocking her path. "Hold on," he says, his voice loud. Anyone actually qualified would have said something by now. Sapphire stops. She doesn't speak. She just looks at him. Thatcher leans into the aisle phone, still recording. "Yeah, seriously. What are you going to do? Google how to fly a plane." A few passengers laugh nervously. Others look away, uncomfortable. Sapphire's gaze shifts past Grant toward the cockpit door. Through the gap, she can see Declan in the right seat, his face pale, his hands gripping the yoke. She can see Dr. Verity crouched beside Captain Bryson, checking his pulse. Sapphire speaks. Her voice is low, calm, and precise. Squawk 7700. Declare Pan Pan Medical. The cabin goes silent. Declan Shaw's head snaps toward the door. His eyes lock on Sapphire. He knows what she just said. Every pilot knows. 7700 is the emergency transponder code. Pan Pan is the international urgency call for a medical emergency that's serious but not yet life-threatening. Grant stares at her. What the hell does that mean? Thatcher lowers his phone, slightly confused. Sapphire doesn't repeat herself. She steps around Grant and walks to the cockpit door. Skye is standing there, one hand on the frame, uncertain. Ma'am, I can't just let... Squawk 7700. Sapphire says again, louder this time. Declare Pan Pan Medical. Request priority handling and nearest suitable airport. Declan Shaw is on his feet now, leaning out of the cockpit. His voice cracks. Who are you? Someone who knows what those words mean. Dr. Verity looks up from Captain Bryson. He's seizing. I need a defibrillator. Now. Skye bolts toward the rear galley. Grant grabs Sapphire's arm. I'm not letting some random woman into the cockpit based on a few fancy words. I demand to see credentials. Sapphire looks down at his hand on her arm, then back up at his face. Her voice is ice. Let go. Grant doesn't. I have a right to know who's... Sir. Declan Shaw is standing in the cockpit doorway now, his voice shaking. If she knows what 7700 means, she knows more than I do right now. Let her through. Grant releases her arm but doesn't step back. This is insane. If anything happens, I'm suing the airline and everyone on this plane. Thatcher Whitmore raises his phone again. This is going to be the wildest lawsuit video ever. Sapphire steps past them both and enters the cockpit. If you're as frustrated as I am watching her get dismissed, smash that like button and subscribe, because in the next 15 minutes, Grant Harlan is about to learn the hardest lesson of his life. You won't want to miss it. The cockpit is chaos. Captain Bryson Hale is slumped in the left seat, his body convulsing. Foam flecks the corners of his mouth. His eyes are half open, rolled back. Dr. Verity is on her knees beside him, 2 fingers pressed to his carotid artery. Cardiac arrest, she says, her voice clipped. I need the AED, now. Skye appears in the doorway, breathless, holding the automated external defibrillator. Doctor, Verity rips open Bryson's shirt, slaps the pads onto his chest, and powers on the unit. Sapphire doesn't look at the captain. She's looking at the instrument panel. Her eyes move fast, attitude indicator, airspeed altimeter, heading vertical speed. Then the engine instruments. Then the weather radar. Engine 3. Ice detect light, glowing amber. Radar display static, no image, just a gray screen with a single flashing error message, radar in and op. Fuel, 200 pounds. At current speed and altitude, that's 22 minutes, maybe less. Declan is gripping the yoke with both hands, his knuckles white. His voice is barely steady. I've never flown alone in weather like this. Sapphire steps closer, her eyes still scanning. What's your alternate? Pittsburgh, Declan says. But it just closed. Cleveland's below minimums. Columbus is marginal, vis 1 mile ceiling 400 feet. Fuel to Columbus. 18 minutes. Maybe 17 if we hold current speed. Sapphire's jaw tightens. She glances at the radar screen again, useless. She looks out the windshield. Clouds. Rain streaking the glass. Lightning flickering in the distance. Behind her, Dr. Verity's voice, clear. The AED shocks. Bryson's body jerks. The monitor beeps erratically, then flatlines again. Charging, Dr. Verity mutters. Come on. Sapphire turns back to Declan. You need to derate thrust and descend to FL 280. Warmer air. It'll help with the ice. Declan stares at her. Who are you? Someone who's been in worse. She points to the throttle levers. Derate. Now. Declan hesitates. Then he pulls the throttles back, slightly reducing thrust to maximum continuous. The engine's pitch drops. Request descent To FL2 Kuro, Sapphire says. Site icing conditions. Declan reaches for the radio, his hand shaking. Cleveland Center Skylink, 4112, request descent FL280, moderate to severe icing. A pause. Then Skylink 412 descend and maintain flight level 280. Descend 280, Skylink 412. The nose dips. The plane begins to descend. Sapphire watches the altimeter unwind. 33 Sun, 32 Husan, 31 says. Grant Harlan's voice booms from the doorway. What the hell is she doing? She's guessing I'm calling the FAA the second we land if we land. Sapphire doesn't turn around. Close the door. Excuse me. Close. The door. Her voice is flat final. Sky pulls Grant back and shuts the cockpit door. The soundproofing muffles his protests. Dr. Verity shocks Bryson again. This time, the monitor beeps slow, irregular, but there, a pulse. He's back, she says, exhaling hard. But he's unstable. He could go again any second. Sapphire nods. She's already moved on. Her eyes are on the engine instruments. Engine 2, N1 fluctuating, 78%, 74%, 81%, 76%. Engine 2's got ice in the compressor, she says quietly. Declan looks at the gauge. Anti-ice is already at max. It's not enough. Sapphire leans over the center console, studying the fuel flow. You need to get lower, fast. Cleveland won't clear us. There's traffic below. Sapphire straightens. She looks at Declan. Then, you tell them it's not a request anymore. You declare an emergency. Declan swallows. For icing. For survival. Declan keys the mic. His voice is steadier now, but only barely. Cleveland Center, Skylink 412. We are declaring an emergency. Dual engine ice accumulation, losing thrust on engine 2. Request immediate descent any altitude. There's a pause. Then Commander Iris Holland's voice comes through sharp and professional. Skylink 412, roger your emergency. Descend pilot's discretion. Maintain own separation visually. Altimeter 2987. Descend pilot's discretion 2987, Skylink 412. Declan pushes the yoke forward. The nose drops steeper. Vertical speed indicator, 2,500 feet per minute. Sapphire watches the altimeter. 28,000, 26,000, 24,000. Pitot heat on, she asks. Yes. Alternate static source. Declan blinks. What? Alternate static. Sapphire points to a small switch near the pedestal. If your pitot tubes are iced over your airspeed indicators lying to you, switch to alternate static. Declan flips the switch. The airspeed indicator jumps 247 knots to 223 knots, the correct speed. Jesus, Declan whispers. Sapphire says nothing. She's watching the engine gauges. Engine 3, ice detect light still on. N1 holding at 82%. Engine 2, N1 dropping, 76%, 72%, 68%. Engine 2 is failing, Sapphire says. You need to tell ATC. Declan's voice is tight. Cleveland Center Skylink. 412 Engine 2 thrust is decaying. We may lose it. Skylink 412 copy. Columbus International is 12 o'clock 40 miles. Runway 10, right ILS available. Winds 320 at 18, gusting 28. Columbus 12 miles, runway 10, right Skylink 412. Sapphire watches the radar screen still dead. She glances out the windshield. The clouds are darker now. The rain is heavier. Lightning flickers closer, illuminating the sky in jagged white bursts. Engine 2 N1 at 64%. The compressor is choking on ice. Behind them, Dr. Verity monitors Bryson's pulse. He's holding, barely. Sapphire turns to Declan. Request emergency descent to FL200. Cite dual engine compromise. We're already descending. Not fast enough. Declan keys the mic. Cleveland Center Skylink 412 request further descent FL200 dual engine ice thrust continuing to decay. Skylink 412 unable. Traffic at FL220 and below. Maintain FL-240. Declan looks at Sapphire helpless. Sapphire's jaw sets. She doesn't argue with ATC. She just looks at the engine gauges. Engine 2, N1 at 58%, then 52%. Then the compressor stalls. A deep, violent shudder runs through the airframe. The plane yaws hard to the right. Declan fights the yoke, his arms straining. Engine 2 failure, he shouts. Compressor stall. Sapphire's hand shoots to the throttle for engine 2. She pulls it back to idle, then reaches for the fuel cutoff. Shutting down engine 2. The shuddering stops. The yaw stabilizes, but now they're flying on one engine. Declan's breathing is ragged. We just lost an engine. You still have one? Sapphire's voice is calm. Too calm. That's enough. For how long? Sapphire glances at the fuel gauge. 300 pounds. 14 minutes, maybe less. She doesn't answer. Declan's voice cracks as he keys the mic. Cleveland Center Skylink 412. We have lost engine 2. Single engine operation. Requesting vectors direct Columbus priority handling. Skylink 412 turn left, heading 185 vectors for Columbus 10 right. You are number 1. Emergency equipment is rolling. Left 185, Skylink 412. Declan banks the plane. The single engine roars compensating. The fuel flow spikes. Sapphire watches the gauge tick down. 3,000 pounds. 13 minutes. Behind them, the cockpit door flies open. Grant Harlan is back, his face red spit flying. This is insane. She's killing us. We're going to crash because you let some get out. Declan doesn't look back. His voice is steel. Grant ignores him. He steps fully into the cockpit. I want her removed, now. Colton Reed appears behind him, shoving his way past Sky. She doesn't know what she's doing. Look at us. We're dropping like a rock. Sapphire turns slowly. Her eyes lock on Colton. Her voice is low, quiet, and absolutely final. Touch me, and you violate Title 49, Section 465 Zos 4 of the U.S. Code. Interference with a flight crew member. Federal offense, 10 years. Colton freezes. Grant doesn't. You're not crew. You're a passenger playing pilot. Sapphire takes one step toward him, close enough that he can see the complete absence of fear in her eyes. I'm the only reason you're still breathing. Now get out of my cockpit. Grant opens his mouth, closes it, steps back. Sky pulls them both into the cabin and slams the door. Sapphire turns back to the panel. Her hands are steady, no tremor, not now. Declan is staring at the weather radar. It just flickered back to life, static, cleared. The screen is painting again, and what it shows makes his blood run cold. A massive supercell, deep red core, rotation visible, stretching 30 miles wide, directly between them and Columbus. Oh my God, Declan whispers. Sapphire leans forward, studying the image. Her eyes trace the edges of the cell, the spiral arms, the rotation center. There, she says, pointing, the eye, 12 miles wide. If we thread it, we avoid the hail and the worst shear. Thread it, Declan's voice rises. That's not possible. Not in a commercial jet. Sapphire doesn't blink. It is if you know what you're doing. And do you... She doesn't answer. She just looks at him. Declan swallows. He looks at the fuel gauge. 2,900 pounds. 12 minutes. He looks at Captain Bryson, unconscious, chest rising and falling in shallow gasps. He looks at the supercell on the radar, an angry red monster between them and the only runway they can reach. And then he looks at Sapphire Hayes, a woman in a faded hoodie. No uniform, no credentials, no explanation, just calm. Okay, he whispers. Okay, what do I do? Sapphire's eyes shift to the radar. Get me ATC on guard frequency, 121.5. That's for military emergencies. I know. Declan hesitates. Then he reaches for the radio panel and dials in 121.5. The frequency crackles to life, silent waiting. Sapphire picks up the mic. Outside, the storm closes in. Lightning splits the sky. Rain hammers the windshield. The plane shudders. Fuel, 850 pounds. 11 minutes. What would you do if you were Declan right now, trust someone with no credentials, or try to fly alone through a supercell? Drop your answer below. I read every single comment. Sapphire stares at the radar screen. The supercell is a crimson spiral rotating slowly, its arms stretched wide like a predator. In the center, a dark void, the eye, 12 miles across, maybe less. She taps the screen with one finger, tracing the path. There, we thread the eye, 12 miles wide. If we stay centered, we avoid the hail cores and the worst wind shear. Declan's mouth opens, closes, opens again. That's not in any manual. Sapphire looks at him. Manuals are written by people who never flew combat. Combat, Declan's voice rises. This is a passenger jet, not a fighter. Physics doesn't care what you're flying. From the cabin, Grant Harlan's voice booms through the cracked cockpit door. This is suicide. She's going to kill us all. Sapphire ignores him. She points to the heading indicator. Turn to heading 185. Maintain FL 240. Watch your vertical speed do not exceed 2,000 feet per minute, or you'll overstress the airframe. Declan's hands hover over the yoke. His breathing is shallow, fast. If I do this, if we don't make it, then we were never going to make it anyway. Sapphire's voice is quiet, but absolute. You have one engine, 12 minutes of fuel, and a storm you can't go around. This is the only option. Declan closes his eyes, opens them, nods once. Heading 185. He turns the yoke. The plane banks left, carving into the darkness. The single engine roars, straining. The fuel gauge ticks down. 2,700 pounds. 10 minutes. The nose pitches forward as they enter the outer edge of the storm. The first gust hits like a fist wind shear, 30 knots, slamming the plane sideways. Declan fights the yoke. Sapphire's hand moves to the throttle, steadying it. Hold your altitude, she says. Let the wind push you. Don't fight it. Don't fight it, Declan's voice cracks. We're getting thrown around like a toy. Fighting it burns fuel. Ride it. Another gust. The plane yaws hard right, then left. The wings flex. Metal groans. Rain hammers the windshield, not drops, but sheets. Torrents, walls of water. Visibility drops to 0. Declan can't see anything but gray. Then the hail starts. It sounds like gunfire. Sharp staccato cracks against the fuselage. Pebble-sized at first. Then golf balls. The windshield spiderwebs, one crack, then two, then a web spreading across the glass. In the cabin, passengers scream. A woman in row 9 is sobbing. A man in row 15 is praying in Spanish. Thatcher Whitmore's phone is still recording, but his hand is shaking so badly the image is a blur. Grant Harlan is gripping his armrest, his knuckles bone white. Flynn Baxter has his eyes closed, lips moving silently. Hector Pruitt sits perfectly still in 14C, watching the cockpit door, waiting. Sapphire's eyes never leave the radar. The eye is 3 miles ahead. 2, 1, and then the chaos stops. The plane slips into the eye of the supercell. Silence. The hail stops. The wind stops. The turbulence vanishes. It's like stepping into another world, calm, impossibly calm, suspended in the center of a rotating wall of violence. Declan exhales, shaking. Oh my God. Sapphire doesn't relax. We have 90 seconds before the eye closes. Descend now. Maximum rate. To what altitude? FL 180. Fast as you can without breaking the frame. Declan pushes the yoke forward. The nose drops. Vertical speed, 3,000 feet per minute. The altimeter spins. 24,000, 22,000, 20,000. Sapphire watches the radar. The eye is shrinking. The walls are closing in. 60 seconds. Commander Iris Holland's voice crackles over the radio, sharp with disbelief. Skylink 4V12, confirm your position. Radar shows you inside the storm core. Are you certain of your heading? Sapphire picks up the mic. Her voice is calm, steady like she's ordering coffee. Cleveland Center, Skylink 4012 requests frequency change. A pause. Skylink 4012, remain this frequency. Negative. Request guard 121.5. Longer pause. Iris's voice returns slower, now cautious. Guard is reserved for military emergency traffic. Who is this? Sapphire doesn't hesitate. Phantom 7, requesting priority airspace Columbus Air Force Base. Silence. 3 seconds. 5. 10. Declan glances at Sapphire. What's Phantom 7? She doesn't answer. Iris's voice comes back quieter now, uncertain. Say again your call sign, Phantom 7. Another pause. Then, stand by. The frequency goes silent. Declan is staring at Sapphire, now his hands still on the yoke, but his attention completely fractured. What did you just do? I got us priority handling. By using a military call sign, are you actually military? Sapphire reaches for the frequency dial and switches to 121.5 guard frequency, the emergency channel, reserved for distress calls hijackings and combat operations. The cabin speaker crackles to life. Passengers can hear it now, faint but audible. In 14C, Hector Pruitt sits bolt upright. His eyes widen. His hand grips the armrest. He knows that frequency. He whispers to himself, too quiet for anyone else to hear, Phantom, that's 391st Fighter Squadron. In 10B, Dr. Verity Kane frowns. She's not military, but she's worked in VA hospitals. She's treated fighter pilots. She knows what guard frequency means. In 2A, Grant Harlan hears the crackle of the new frequency and shouts toward the cockpit. What is she doing? Who is she talking to? Nobody answers him. The radio hisses. Then a new voice, low authoritative male. Aircraft on guard. This is Columbus Air Force Base Tower. Authenticate your call sign. Respond immediately. Sapphire picks up the mic. Columbus Tower, Phantom 7, requesting priority handling for emergency landing runway 23 left. A beat. Then, Phantom 7, authenticate Tango X-Ray 4. Sapphire doesn't blink. X-Ray Lima 9. Silence. Declan watches her, his mouth open. He has no idea what just happened, but he knows it's real. The authentication sequence military pilots use it to verify identity over unsecured channels. It's not something you can fake, not something you can Google. The voice returns. This time it's different, sharper, respectful. Authentication confirmed, Phantom 7, a pause. Sapphire haze. Sapphire's jaw tightens. She doesn't respond. Phantom 7, this is Colonel Ronan Drake, Columbus AFB. We have you on radar. Entire airspace is being cleared. What do you need? Single engine approach runway 23 left. Fuel critical. 12 minutes. Copy. Runway 23 left. Winds 310 at 55, gusting 70. Foam is being applied. Emergency equipment in position. You have absolute priority. All civilian traffic is being diverted. Phantom 7, Roger. Declan's hands are shaking on the yoke. He turns to Sapphire, his voice barely a whisper. Who the hell are you? She doesn't look at him. Her eyes are on the radar. The eye is closing. 30 seconds left. In the cabin, Grant Harlan has gone silent. His face is pale. Thatcher Whitmore has stopped filming. His phone hangs limply in his hand. Flynn Baxter leans toward the passenger next to him and whispers, Did he just say Sapphire Haze? The passenger shrugs, confused. Hector Pruitt is leaning forward in his seat, now staring at the cockpit door. He's heard that name before. Years ago, Kuwait, a briefing, a legend. The pilot who flew a crippled F-15 through a sandstorm with one engine and no hydraulics. The pilot who saved an entire convoy by threading a missile gap no one thought was possible. Phantom 7. He exhales slowly. We're going to make it. Dr. Verity Kane hears him. She looks over. What? Hector nods toward the cockpit. That woman, she's not guessing. She's done this before. In worse. Dr. Verity frowns. How do you know? Because I've seen pilots like her, and they don't fail. The plane shudders. The eye is closing. The turbulence returns hard, violent, immediate. The walls of the supercell slam into them from all sides, but Sapphire's voice is steady. Descend to FL 180. Maintain heading 185. Do not deviate. Declan obeys. For the first time since this began, he trusts her completely. The frequency crackles again. Colonel Ronan Drake's voice cuts through the static calm, but urgent. Phantom 7 Columbus Tower. We've confirmed your identity through CENTCOM. Colonel Sapphire Hayes, service number Alpha 739er Delta. Is that correct? Sapphire's jaw tightens. She didn't want this. Not here, not now. But there's no hiding anymore. Affirmative. Copy. Ma'am, we've been briefed on your combat record. Fallujah Kandahar Operation Tempest Shield. You're cleared for any approach you deem necessary. We trust your judgment. Declan's head snaps toward her. Colonel. Sapphire ignores him. She keys the mic. Columbus Tower Phantom 7, requesting current winds and visibility. Winds 310 at 55, gusting 70. Visibility 1 mile and heavy rain. Ceiling 400 feet broken. Runway 23 left, ILS available approach, lighting at full intensity. Phantom 7 copy. She sets the mic down. Her hands move over the panel, smooth, practiced, no wasted motion. She's done this 1,000 times, just never in a 737. Declan is staring at her, his face a mix of awe and disbelief. You're a colonel. You're an actual Air Force colonel. Was retired 2 years ago. And you didn't think to mention that when the captain collapsed. Sapphire glances at him. Would it have mattered? Declan opens his mouth, closes it. He realizes she's right. Grant Harlan still would have blocked her. Thatcher Whitmore still would have filmed her. They wouldn't have believed her until someone else, someone with authority, confirmed it. In the cabin, the passengers are silent now. The intercom is still on. They heard everything. Grant Harlan is sitting perfectly still in 2A, his face ashen. He's gripping the armrest so hard his fingers are numb. He can't breathe. He can't think. All he can hear is that voice, Colonel Sapphire Hayes, and the memory of his own words. She doesn't belong here. Thatcher Whitmore has his phone in his lap, screen dark. He's not filming anymore. His hands are shaking. He keeps replaying the last 10 minutes in his head, and every replay makes him feel smaller. Colton Reed is silent. He tried to push her. He tried to remove her from the cockpit. He violated federal law on camera. Thatcher's video is still saved. His career is over. Flynn Baxter. The man who whispered she doesn't look the part is staring at the back of the seat in front of him. He says nothing. There's nothing to say. In 10B, Dr. Verity Kane is smiling faintly. She knew. Not the details, but the shape of it. The way Sapphire moved. The way she spoke. The way she didn't flinch when everything fell apart. Combat changes people. Verity has seen it in operating rooms and trauma bays, in the eyes of soldiers she stitched back together. Sapphire has that look. The look of someone who's been to the edge and walked back. In 14C, Hector Pruitt nods slowly. He was right. He leans back in his seat, closes his eyes, and exhales. Phantom 7, he whispers. I'll be damned. The plane breaks through the bottom of the supercell. The turbulence eases. The rain thins. Visibility improves barely but enough. Declan can see the horizon now. Dark gray sky. Darker gray ground. Lights in the distance, Columbus. Sapphire points to the fuel gauge. 2,100 pounds, 8 minutes. Start your descent profile, she says. 3 degrees, no more. Declan nods. He's not questioning her anymore. He's just flying. Flaps 1, Sapphire says. Declan reaches for the flap lever, extends them 1 notch. The plane slows. Drag increases. Gear down, 3 green lights, locked. The runway is 12 miles ahead. Sapphire can't see it yet, but she knows it's there. She's flown into Columbus AFB a dozen times. She knows every approach, every taxiway, every angle. But she's never done it on one engine. In a storm, with 55-knot crosswinds. In a plane she's never flown before. She flexes her right hand. The tremor is back. She grips the yoke with her left, compensating. Declan sees it. Are you? I'm fine. Your hand? I'm fine. She's not, but she will be. The cockpit warning system screams, beep, 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 engine 1. The only engine they have left flashes red on the display. EGT 950°C, exhaust gas temperature, critical. N2 106%, overspeed. The turbine is spinning too fast, heating too fast, seconds away from catastrophic failure. Sapphire's eyes snap to the gauge. Engine 1 overtemp, reduce thrust to idle. Declan's face goes white. If I reduce thrust, we'll drop like a rock. If you don't, the engine explodes and we drop like a rock on fire. Sapphire's hand moves to the throttle. Idle now. Declan pulls the throttle back. The engine note drops. The plane shudders. And then it starts to fall. Vertical speed, 1,500 feet per minute. Then 2,200. Then 3,500. The nose pitches forward. The airspeed increases. The altimeter spins down like a slot machine. 15,000, 13,000, 11,000. The cabin lights flicker. Once, twice. Then they cut out, completely replaced by dim emergency lighting. The passengers erupt, screams, sobs, frantic prayers. A child in row 12 is wailing. A man in row 18 is shouting into his phone, trying to leave a voice message for his wife, but there's no signal. His voice cracks. I love you. I love you. Grant Harlan stands, stumbles into the aisle, and grabs the nearest seat back. His face is red veins bulging in his neck. He's hyperventilating. This is it, he screams. She's killing us. She's going to kill my family. He lurches toward the cockpit, but Hector Pruitt is faster. The older man unbuckles steps into the aisle and puts a firm hand on Grant's chest. Sit down, son. Grant tries to push past him. Get out of my way. Hector doesn't move. His voice is low, calm iron. Sit down. That woman knows what she's doing. She's guessing she's Phantom 7. Hector's eyes are hard. 391st Fighter Squadron. I served with men who flew under her command. If she says, we're going to make it, we're going to make it. Now sit down before I make you. Grant stares at him, chest heaving. Then he collapses back into his seat, shaking. In 3C, Thatcher Whitmore is still holding his phone, but he's not filming. His hand is trembling so badly he can barely grip it. He keeps looking at the screen at the footage he recorded earlier. Sapphire's face, her calm voice, his own mocking commentary. He feels sick. In the cockpit, the altimeter spins 9,000, 7,000, 5,000. Declan's voice is a ragged whisper. We're not going to make it. Sapphire's eyes are locked on the instruments. Yes, we are. We're falling at 3,000 feet per minute. Then stop falling. Her hand moves to the yoke. Pull up, gently. Use the airspeed. Declan hesitates. Then he pulls. The yoke comes back. The nose lifts. The vertical speed slows, 3,500, 2,800, 2,000s, but the airspeed is dropping, 180 knots, dangerously close to stall speed. Sapphire watches the engine gauge. The EGT is cooling, 920 degrees, 900 degrees, 880 degrees. Advance thrust to max continuous, she says. Declan pushes the throttle forward. The engine spools up. The plane stops descending. Altitude 200 feet. They're still alive. Fuel 1,400 pounds. 5 minutes. Maybe 4. The runway is 8 miles ahead. Sapphire can see it now, a faint line of white lights cutting through the rain and darkness. Flaps 5, she says. Declan extends the flaps. The plane slows. More drag. More fuel burn. Gear down. 3 green lights. The plane is stable now. Descending. On profile. But barely. Commander Iris Holland's voice breaks through on the radio, tight with tension. Skylink 412, you are 3 miles from the threshold. Winds 310 at 58, gusting 72. Advise if you need equipment standing by. Sapphire keys the mic. Phantom 7 equipment is already standing by. We'll take the foam. Copy. Godspeed. Sapphire sets the mic down. She turns to Declan. When I say spoilers, you pull them full. Don't hesitate. Don't second guess. Just pull. Declan nods, his throat dry. Okay. Say it back to me. Spoilers. Full. On your call. Good. The runway is 2 miles ahead. Sapphire can see the approach lights now, a row of white strobes leading to the threshold. Beyond that, the runway is coated in foam. Emergency trucks line the taxiway's lights flashing. She grips the yoke with her left hand. Her right hand rests on the throttle, trembling. She doesn't try to hide it anymore. There's no point. Declan sees it. Are you sure you can? I've done this before. Her voice is quiet. Steady. Fallujah. December 2009. Surface-to-air missile took out my left engine. Hydraulics bled out in 40 seconds. Tower told me to eject. I didn't. She glances at him. My wingman had a wife and 2 kids. I stayed. Landed at night. No ILS. Sandstorm. Visibility 0. Declan stares at her. And you made it. I made it. She looks back at the runway. Because I stopped thinking about the book and started thinking about who needed me alive. 1 mile. Fuel 900 pounds. 2 minutes. The crosswind hits hard. The plane yaws violently to the right. Sapphire's left hand moves on the yoke, compensating. Her feet work the rudder pedals, keeping the nose aligned. 50 feet, Declan calls out. Spoilers ready. 30 feet. Hold. 20. Hold! The wheels kiss the foam, a gentle thud. Spoilers now. Declan yanks the lever. The spoilers deploy. The plane decelerates hard, sinking into the foam. The emergency trucks race alongside sirens wailing. The plane slows, stops, 400 feet from the end of the runway. Silence. Then the cabin erupts in applause, sobs prayers of thanks. Sapphire releases the yoke. Her hands are shaking. She closes her eyes. They're alive. The plane sits motionless on the foam-covered runway. Outside, emergency vehicles surround them. Fire trucks, ambulances, Air Force security units. Red and blue lights strobe through the rain-streaked windows. Inside the cockpit, Declan Shaw is still gripping the yoke, his knuckles white, his breathing shallow. He hasn't moved. He's staring straight ahead, unable to process what just happened. Sapphire unbuckles her seatbelt. Her hands are steady now. The tremor is gone. She reaches across the center console and gently pries Declan's fingers off the yoke one at a time. Let go, she says quietly. We're on the ground. Declan's hands fall to his lap. He looks at her, his eyes wet. How did you... training? She stands, moves toward the cockpit door. And necessity. Behind them, Dr. Verity Kane is still kneeling beside Captain Bryson Hale. His pulse is weak but present. His breathing is shallow. She looks up at Sapphire. He needs a hospital, now. Sapphire nods. Paramedics are outside. She opens the cockpit door. The cabin is a mess, overhead bins, hanging open carry-on bags, scattered in the aisle oxygen masks, dangling from the ceiling. But the passengers are alive. All of them. Some are crying. Some are praying. Some are sitting in stunned silence, staring at nothing. Grant Harlan is still in 2A. His face is pale, slick with sweat. His hands are shaking in his lap. He looks up as Sapphire steps into the cabin. Their eyes meet. He opens his mouth. No words come out. Just a choked, broken sound. Sapphire walks past him without a word. Sky Lambert is standing near the forward galley, bracing herself against the wall. Her uniform is disheveled, her face streaked with tears. When she sees Sapphire, she straightens, tries to compose herself. Ma'am, Her voice cracks. Thank you. Sapphire nods once. Do your job. Get these people off safely. Sky wipes her eyes and moves down the aisle, calling out instructions to the other flight attendants. The forward door opens. A blast of cold air and rain rushes in. Paramedics board immediately, heading straight for the cockpit. In 10B, Dr. Verity Kane steps aside as the medics take over. She watches them work for a moment, then turns and walks back into the cabin. She finds Sapphire standing near row 8, checking the emergency exits. You saved his life, Dr. Verity says. And ours. Sapphire glances at her. You kept him alive. That was the hard part. Don't. Dr. Verity's voice is firm. I've worked trauma for 30 years. I know what competence looks like. And I know what heroism looks like. She pauses. You're both. Sapphire doesn't respond. She just picks up her duffel bag from under seat 8A and slings it over her shoulder. In 14C, Hector Pruitt is unbuckling his seatbelt. He stands, walks up the aisle, and stops in front of Sapphire. He's a full head shorter than her, his face weathered and lined, but his eyes are sharp. Phantom 7, he says quietly. Sapphire meets his gaze. Navy. 32 years. I was in Kuwait during Desert Storm. I saw your squadron fly cover for our ground ops. He extends his hand. It's an honor, ma'am. Sapphire shakes it. Thank you for your service. No, ma'am. Hector's voice is thick. Thank you for ours. He steps back, lets her pass. As she walks down the aisle toward the exit, passengers start to notice. One by one they stand. Some nod. Some whisper thanks. Some just stare, unable to find words. A young woman in row 16 is holding her sleeping toddler. She looks at Sapphire with tears streaming down her face. You brought me home to my baby. Sapphire stops. She looks at the child. A little girl, maybe 3 years old, curled against her mother's chest, oblivious to everything that just happened. You were always going home, Sapphire says softly. I just helped get you there. She continues toward the exit. As she passes row 4, Colton Reed shrinks into his seat, trying to make himself invisible. He doesn't look at her. He can't. In row 3, Thatcher Whitmore is staring at his phone. The video he recorded is still saved in his drafts. His thumb hovers over the delete button, but he doesn't press it. Not yet. He's not sure why. In row 2, Grant Harlan finally moves. He stands, steps into the aisle, and blocks Sapphire's path one more time. She stops, waits. Grant opens his mouth, closes it. His jaw works, but no sound comes out. His eyes are red, his face crumpled. He looks like a man who's just realized he's spent his entire life being wrong about something fundamental. I'm sorry, he finally whispers. Sapphire looks at him for a long moment. Then she steps around him and walks out the door. The jet bridge is crowded with personnel, Air Force officers, FAA inspectors, airport security, more paramedics. Sapphire steps off the plane and is immediately met by a tall man in an Air Force dress uniform. Silver eagles on his shoulders. Colonel. Colonel Hayes, he salutes. Colonel Ronan Drake, Columbus AFB, welcome home. Sapphire returns the salute, crisp and automatic. Thank you, sir. CENTCOM's been briefed. They want a full debrief within 24 hours. He hands her a tablet. But first, the FAA wants a statement. NTSB's already en route. Sapphire takes the tablet, but doesn't look at it. The co-pilot needs rest. He did everything I asked. Without him, we don't make it. Ronan nods. Noted. He'll be commended. Behind them, Declan Shaw emerges from the jet bridge, escorted by 2 FAA officials. He looks shell-shocked, moving on autopilot. When he sees Sapphire, he stops. Ma'am, he says. You did good, Declan. Sapphire's voice is steady. You trusted your training. You trusted your instincts. And when it mattered, you trusted me. That's what kept us alive. Declan's throat works. He nods, unable to speak, and is led away by the officials. Sapphire watches him go. Then she turns back to Ronan. The passengers. Being processed now. Medical evaluation statements. Standard post-incident protocol. He pauses. There's already media outside. This is going to be big. I don't do media. You might not have a choice. Ronan glances at his watch. The video's already out. Sapphire frowns. What video? Passenger recorded the whole thing. It's been online for 20 minutes. 6 million views and climbing. Sapphire closes her eyes. Of course. Inside the terminal, the passengers are being escorted through a secure corridor. Grant Harlan is near the back of the line, walking slowly, his head down. His phone buzzes. A text from his CFO board meeting moved up. They saw the video. We need to talk. Another buzz. His lawyer. Do not speak to press. Call me immediately. Another. His wife. I'm watching the news. What the hell happened? Are you okay? He doesn't reply to any of them. He just keeps walking. Thatcher Whitmore is 3 people ahead of him, scrolling through his Twitter feed. His video, the one he posted from his drafts without thinking, is everywhere. Retweets quote. Tweets think. Pieces outrage, support, condemnation. The top comment with 47,000 likes. This man tried to stop a decorated Air Force colonel from saving his life because of what she looked like. Let that sink in. Thatcher's hands start shaking again. He locks his phone and shoves it into his pocket. Colton Reed is escorted into a separate room, an FAA interview room. 2 agents are waiting. One of them pulls up the video on a laptop and turns it toward him. Mr. Reed, can you explain why you attempted to forcibly remove Colonel Hayes from the cockpit during a federal aviation emergency? Colton's mouth goes dry. I didn't know she was qualified or didn't know she was military. Because either way, you violated 14 CFR section 121-580, interference with flight crew members. That's a federal offense. Colton says nothing. There's nothing to say. Back in the terminal, Hector Pruitt is sitting with Dr. Verity Kane waiting for his connecting flight. CNN is playing on the overhead monitors. The headline, "Decorated Pilot Saves 312 Lives After Being Dismissed by Passengers." Hector watches the screen, shaking his head. People see what they expect to see, not what's actually there. Dr. Verity nods. Medicine's the same. I've seen brilliant residents get overlooked because they didn't look like surgeons. She glances at him. You knew, though. You saw her. I saw someone who wasn't afraid. Hector leans back. And in my experience, people who aren't afraid have already survived worse. On the screen, a reporter is interviewing an aviation expert. The expert is explaining the difficulty of what Sapphire just did, single-engine approach, crosswind landing, storm, penetration, all in an aircraft she'd never flown before. This is textbook impossible, the expert says, and she made it look routine. Sapphire sits alone in a small office at the edge of the terminal. The door is closed. The lights are dim. She's staring at her right hand, watching the faint tremor that's returned now that the adrenaline is fading. Her mind drifts back. Not to the flight she just landed. To another one. 13 years ago. Fallujah. December 2009. Night. Sandstorm. Visibility 0. The missile hit her left engine at 18,000 feet. The explosion was a flash of white, a shudder that rattled her teeth, and then silence. The engine died. The hydraulic warning lights lit up like Christmas red amber red. Her wingman's voice crackled over the radio. Phantom 7, you're trailing fire. Eject. Eject now. Sapphire looked at the fuel gauge. 2 minutes. Maybe 3. She thought about her wingman, Lieutenant Marcus Cole, 28 years old, married, twin daughters. She thought about the convoy below, 17 soldiers pinned down by enemy fire, waiting for air support that would never come if she punched out. The tower repeated, "Phantom 7 eject. That's an order." She didn't. She shut down the dead engine, rerouted what was left of the hydraulics, and flew the crippled F-15 on one engine through a sandstorm with no instruments, no visibility, and no margins. The book said it was impossible. The book was wrong. She landed. The plane caught fire 30 seconds after she climbed out. Marcus Cole made it home. So did the convoy. And Sapphire Hayes learned something that night. The book is written by people who never had to choose between impossible and unacceptable. She flexes her hand. The tremor stops. She stands, picks up her duffel, and walks out. 3 hours later, Sapphire is sitting in a conference room at Columbus AFB across from 2 NTSB investigators and an FAA attorney. The interview has been going for 90 minutes. "Colonel Hayes, for the record, you have no current commercial pilot certification. Is that correct?" "Correct." "And you took control of a commercial aircraft during an in-flight emergency without explicit authorization from the operating airline." "I provided assistance at the request of the co-pilot during a life-threatening situation." The attorney makes a note. "The FAA is grateful for your actions. But we need to be clear, this sets a complicated precedent." "Then change the precedent," Sapphire says evenly. "The next time someone's dying at 30,000 feet, you want the most qualified person in the cockpit, not the person with the right paperwork." The investigators exchange glances. One of them closes his folder. "Off the record," he says. "You did what 70% of commercial pilots couldn't. We're recommending a commendation. On the record, we have to follow protocol." Sapphire nods. "I understand." She's released 2 hours later. When she steps outside, Declan Shaw is waiting. "Hey," he says. "Hey." "I just got out of my debrief." He looks exhausted, but there's something lighter in his eyes now. "They told me I'll be cleared to fly again in 6 months. Pending psych eval. You'll pass." "Maybe." He shifts his weight. I wanted to say thank you for trusting me, for not taking over completely. You could have." "You were the pilot in command," Sapphire says. "I was just backup." Declan laughs, sharp disbelieving. "Backup? Right." Sapphire almost smiles. "You'll be fine, Declan. You've got the instincts. Just trust them." She starts to walk away. Declan calls after her. "Will I see you again?" "Maybe," she says, without turning around. "If you're lucky." 2 weeks later, the fallout is seismic. Grant Harlan's investment firm loses 83% of its clients in 10 days. His face frozen in a screenshot from Thatcher's video, mouth open mid-insult, becomes a meme. The caption, "When privilege meets competence." He's forced to resign. His severance is revoked. His reputation is destroyed. He files for bankruptcy 3 months later. Thatcher Whitmore's law firm releases a statement. "Mr. Whitmore's views do not reflect the values of our organization. His employment has been terminated effective immediately." The video he posted has 50 million views. It's been dissected, analyzed, taught in diversity training seminars and aviation safety courses. Thatcher deletes all his social media. It doesn't help. His name is now synonymous with prejudice and poor judgment. Colton Reed is banned from commercial aviation for 2 years. The FAA adds his case to its training materials as an example of what not to do during an in-flight emergency. Flynn Baxter quietly retires from his executive position. Nobody notices. The NTSB releases its final report 6 months later. The conclusion: Colonel Sapphire Hayes demonstrated extraordinary skill judgment and composure under conditions that would have resulted in catastrophic loss of life. Her actions represent a benchmark for emergency aviation response and should be studied by commercial and military pilots alike. The FAA issues a formal commendation. It's presented at a ceremony Sapphire doesn't attend. Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University invites Sapphire to deliver the keynote address at their spring commencement. She declines. They ask again. She declines again. Finally, they offer her an adjunct position teaching a seminar on crisis decision-making. She accepts. 3 major airlines offer her positions as a training officer. She turns down 2. The third, a smaller regional carrier she considers. I don't want a desk, she tells them. I want to teach pilots how to think, not what to think. They agree. The FAA convenes a panel to review emergency pilot protocols. The recommendation that emerges 6 months later. In life-threatening scenarios, priority should be given to demonstrated competence and real-time capability over credentials alone. Documentation is essential, but it should not preclude qualified individuals from rendering aid during crises. It's a small change, but it's a change. 1 year later, a documentary crew tracks down passengers from Skylink 412. Most agree to be interviewed, Dr. Verity Kane. She saved lives with precision and humility. That's the definition of a professional. Hector Pruitt. I've seen heroes. She's one of them. Declan Shaw, now a full captain. She didn't just save us. She taught me what it means to be a pilot. Grant Harlan declines to participate. Thatcher Whitmore is unreachable. The documentary airs on PBS. It's titled Phantom 7, The Pilot They Didn't See. It wins an Emmy. The jet bridge at Columbus International is nearly empty now. Most of the passengers had been processed, reunited with families sent home. Sapphire Hayes walks alone through the corridor, her duffel slung over one shoulder. She's wearing the same hoodie, the same jeans, the same scuffed sneakers. She looks exactly like she did when she boarded the flight in Cleveland. Nobody recognizes her. At the end of the jet bridge, standing near the terminal entrance, is an Air Force officer in dress uniform, Captain's bars. He's holding a manila envelope. Colonel Hayes. Sapphire stops. Yes. He salutes. She returns it. He hands her the envelope. Orders from CENTCOM, ma'am. Medical Evacuation Training Squadron. Ramstein Air Base, Germany. They want the pilot who landed a 737 on one engine in a Cat 5. Sapphire opens the envelope. Inside deployment orders coordinates a plane ticket. Departure, 72 hours. She closes the envelope, tucks it into her duffel. Thank you, Captain. Ma'am? He hesitates. For what it's worth, what you did today. That's going to be taught for the next 50 years. Sapphire nods once. Let's hope nobody ever has to use it. She walks past him through the terminal, past the news crews camped outside the security checkpoint. A few reporters shout questions. She doesn't stop. Outside, the rain has stopped. The tarmac is slick, reflecting the runway lights. Sapphire walks to the edge of the passenger pickup area and stops breathing in the cold, clean air. Behind her, inside the terminal, Grant Harlan is sitting alone on a bench near baggage claim. His wife has filed for divorce. His children won't return his calls. He's unemployed under investigation and internet famous for all the wrong reasons. He watches Sapphire through the glass. She's just standing there, looking out at the runway. Ordinary, unremarkable, and yet... He thinks about the moment she looked at him in the cockpit, the calm in her eyes, the absence of fear, the certainty. He wonders how many people like her he's dismissed in his life, how many opportunities he's destroyed, how much talent he's overlooked because it didn't wear a suit or carry a briefcase or speak with his accent. He wonders if he'll ever stop wondering. Sapphire turns and walks toward the taxi line. As she moves, her duffel shifts. The zipper half open releases something, a small metallic object. It tumbles out, hits the pavement, rolls a few feet, and stops. A coin. Military. Brass. Worn smooth on one side. On the other, an engraving USAF 391st Fighter Squadron. Phantom 7. A skycap bends down, picks it up, looks around. But Sapphire is already gone, disappearing into the night, The skycap turns the coin over in his hand, reads the inscription, and exhales slowly. He sets it on the edge of a concrete planter near the curb. Somebody will find it. Or they won't. It doesn't matter. The coin lies there catching the light from the runway, a silent witness to a truth that doesn't need to be spoken. Competence doesn't announce itself. Heroism doesn't demand recognition. And the people who save your life are often the ones you never saw coming. Inside the terminal, on a TV mounted above the baggage carousel, the news is running a breaking story. Unsung hero, retired colonel saves hundreds after being dismissed by passengers. The anchor's voice. A reminder that we live in a world where assumptions can be deadly and where courage often hides in plain sight. The passengers from Skylink 412, scattered across the country, now will see that broadcast. Some will feel shame, some will feel gratitude, some will change, most won't. But Declan Shaw, watching from his hotel room, will remember. Dr. Verity Kane, back in her operating room, will remember. Hector Pruitt, sitting on his porch with a beer, will remember. And somewhere in a cockpit over the Atlantic, a young pilot will hear the story and think, maybe I can do that too. That's the legacy, not the medals, not the headlines. The quiet belief passed from one person to the next that impossible is just another word for not yet. Sapphire Hayes boards a red-eye to Frankfurt 3 days later. She sits in 22B economy window seat. She's wearing the same hoodie. The flight attendant asks if she wants a drink. Water, Sapphire says. Thanks. The attendant doesn't recognize her. Nobody does. And that's exactly how she wants it. Outside 35,000 feet below, the world turns. Storms gather. Planes take off. People trust their lives to strangers every single day. Most of the time it works. And when it doesn't, somewhere someone like Sapphire Hayes is ready. You just have to see them.